Now, guys, we have covered many different responses to Donald Trump winning this 2024 election. We've seen leftists screaming, crying, throwing up, melting down, some women even shaving their heads. But today we're going to talk about a new phenomenon that's taking place even among some prominent leftists. And it's those who are deciding to leave the platform X. But of course, they don't go quietly. They have to announce it to us all and tell us why. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Guys, before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe. Yes, the left is having a new response to Donald Trump winning the 2024 election because they are looking around for somebody to blame, and they're looking everywhere except in the mirror. So we know what's going on here. They're looking for a name. They want to bring this person down, and now they've set their sights on Elon Musk. As we all know, Elon Musk purchased Twitter for billions of dollars. He turned it into X and essentially made it a free speech platform. Although the left is now saying he made it a platform that is rife with misinformation, hate speech, and support for Donald Trump. They're even accusing him of sort of pushing Donald Trump on the people through the X platform. And now that Donald Trump has won this election, they're deciding to retreat back into their echo chambers and to leave X behind. Of course, we have your average everyday leftists who are deciding to leave X, but we also have some prominent ones who are deactivating their accounts. But before they do so, they have to let everybody know and virtue signal and take the moral high ground and tell you why they're deciding to leave the platform. Now, of course, first we have Jamie Lee Curtis, who announces that she has quit Twitter/X. She says, quote, "God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference." Now, we all know Jamie Lee Curtis's politics. We all know that she has a trans child, and she is no stranger to signaling her politics to the entire world. So I'm not at all surprised that she's decided to leave the platform. And we'll talk about what this means for politics and Democrats in just a moment as we get through this list of other people who've decided to follow in Jamie Lee Curtis's footsteps. Famous author Stephen King writes, "I'm leaving Twitter. Tried to stay, but the atmosphere has just become too toxic. Follow me on Threads if you like." Now, if any of you have had the misfortune of checking out Stephen King's X account before he left the platform, it was full of tirades against Donald Trump and leftist ideology. So again, no surprise there. Next, we have Disney's Snow White, Rachel Zegler. She says, "Get off of Elon's app, by the way. The f are you doing? They're eating you up on Twitter. I don't use that app for a reason. He helped get that man elected and you're giving him business. I was talking about finding catharsis in art. I don't care if you're gonna pick a fight with me. It's been done before. Find something real to be mad at today. There's plenty to go around." And of course, we all know the politics of Rachel Zegler because she cannot help but share them anytime she gets the opportunity. If you shenan once, you gon' shenan again. And she had to do so when she heard the results of this election. She went even further to say that Trump supporters should have no peace. And I guess she will now have peace now that she's decided to retreat into her echo chamber where she doesn't have to listen to dissonant opinions. But it's your choice. You know him, you criticize him. It's Don Lemon. Now, he had to leave the platform as well, I guess, because it's become unsafe. And he decided to not only post a video explaining why he's doing it, but he turned that video into a statement and made a second post on top of that. They just can't leave without getting a few words out first. Let's watch his video.
Hi, everyone. I have loved connecting with all of you on Twitter and then on X for all of these years. But it's time for me to leave the platform. I once believed that it was a place for honest debate and discussion, transparency and free speech. But I now feel it does not serve that purpose. In addition, starting this Friday, November 15th, X is implementing new terms of service, which among other things states that, quote, "all disputes be brought exclusively in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas or state courts located in Tarrant County, Texas," end quote. The full terms of service can be found on my written statement or on the X website. Now, as the Washington Post recently reported on X's decision to change the terms, this, quote, "ensures that such lawsuits will be heard in courthouses that are a hub for conservatives, which experts say could make it easier for X to shield itself from litigation and punish critics." I think that speaks for itself. You can find me on YouTube at The Don Lemon Show, or on TikTok and Facebook at Don Lemon, and on Instagram and Bluesky at Don Lemon Official. I hope you will join me there. Thanks.
I'm gonna be so real with y'all. I didn't know what Bluesky was before all these people started saying they're leaving and they're moving to this app. And apparently when you go on it, it is essentially a leftist echo chamber. They're talking about the misinformation that exists on X. They're sharing their theories about election fraud in this 2024 election, which I'll just leave you. Now, it's interesting that Don Lemon says he's worried about misinformation and the power that conservatives can now exercise on a platform like X, given that conservatives have been raising their hands for I don't even know how long now, talking about the stronghold that big tech has on the American mind. We found out through the Twitter files that Twitter was colluding with government agencies and bureaucrats to control what it was that the American people were able to see and hear. It controlled stories that related to the 2020 election and impacted the way people voted. So who should we really be looking at when it comes to things like censorship and misinformation? I don't think it's Elon Musk, and I don't think it's X. And of course, we all know Don Lemon's history. He worked for CNN, a news media outlet that is notorious for misinformation and censorship. You guys will remember during COVID when they edited Joe Rogan's face to make him look sicker than he actually was. You'll remember during the BLM riots, there were mostly peaceful protests. CNN knows misinformation and censorship because that is their business. And I guess Don Lemon carried that with him when he left, because now he's deciding to retreat off of X, which we all know is the free speech platform, to go to what? Bluesky and shout out into a void of other leftists. I'm old enough to remember when a man by the name of Mark Zuckerberg thought that he was going to create a Twitter killer by the name of Threads. Can we check back in on how that's going? Crickets. And I have a feeling in a short time from now, we're going to be able to say the very same thing about this new Bluesky thing that people are retreating to because they're uncomfortable being on a platform that emphasizes free speech. But Don Lemon and Stephen King and Jamie Lee Curtis are not alone because, of course, your girl Joy Reid had to also deactivate her X account. And just like Don Lemon, she too had to run her mouth and make a video explaining why she chose to leave the platform.
Hey guys, so today I finally did something I've been meaning to do for a while.
Not the music. Deactivated.
And the reason for doing it, and kissing goodbye my 1.9 million followers over there, is because I hadn't been posting for a long time. I just didn't want to contribute content.
Notice how she had to mention she has 1.9 million followers. She just had to slip that into her commentary.
Once it was purchased by its present owner, but just having it there, I was only holding on to it because I, really didn't want someone trying to take over that name and using it for nefarious purposes. I was a little bit worried about that. And also every so often I would use it to just sort of look at news that was trending and what's happening. And I would just sort of use it as an aggregator. But I just realized that that's not really worth it, because in order to do the news aggregation and just look at all, you have to wade through a lot of dreck and a lot of just abuse and a lot of just negativity, and it's just not worth it. And,
That's a minute. A minute is enough. We can sort of get the gist of what Joy Reid is trying to say. She's uncomfortable with the fact that people are actually allowed to espouse their opinions on a platform like X. So she wants to retreat to the big tech platforms that she's used to that police the things that people say and think. So that's no surprise. Joy Reid, if she could, would happily wipe every single conservative off the internet. Joy Reid has what we call main character energy. She had to mention her 1.9 million followers. She's worried about people using her name. She constantly has this sort of elitist vibe about her, although she claims to be a person who's speaking for the people. And when you're speaking for the people, you have to recognize what they want. You can't recognize what they want if when they tell you what they want with their votes, you decide that you are just going to remove yourself from the situation and go somewhere else to speak to people who agree with you. And we watched Joy Reid with her main character energy at the top of election night, and we slowly watched as it dwindled down as we got more results, and she recognized that Donald Trump was going to be winning this election. But I guess Joy Reid has risen from that low, and in her rise, she's deciding she's not going to take a look in the mirror. She's not going to do any introspection. She's not going to look at her own party and try to figure out why they lost this election. And she's not going to listen to anybody who disagrees with her, which I have to remind you guys is why the Democrats lost this election in the first place. But please, Joy, keep rising, keep climbing up that ivory tower, keep removing yourself from situations where you have to contend with your beliefs, keep removing yourself from reality and the lives of real Americans, because as long as you continue to do that, we're going to remain on top. And you know what? At the end of the day, I can't really blame these individuals. You have freedom of choice, and that freedom of choice exists with social media platforms. If you don't want to be on X, if you don't want to hear other people's opinions, then by all means, remove yourself. At the end of the day, I guess less social media is going to be healthier for your lifestyle anyways. But I have to say, they're not leaving because they're better than us. They're not leaving because they stand on some sort of moral high ground. They're leaving because they're uncomfortable with the idea of free speech. And it's an idea that X is trying to protect. And it goes to show that for a long time, these individuals have been living in a bubble where they fully accepted that people are being censored and deplatformed for simply having opinions that are dissident to their own. And they were okay with that. They invited it. They loved it. They were happy to have that power. They were happy to censor and deplatform and ruin the lives of people who disagreed with them. And now that they've gotten a little taste of free speech, they simply cannot handle it. And they have to retreat back to what they're used to. And that'll be good for now. And by all means, exercise your right to do that. But it's not going to last for long, because I feel like people are finally starting to understand that the Democrats did them dirty. Not all Democrats, but a lot of them, and many of whom we featured in this video, think that they are morally superior. That not only do their issues matter more than yours, but that they don't have to listen to you in the first place when you try to come to them with your problems and issues. And they've been on a long pattern of behaving in this way, so much so that they got a major wake-up call this year when they lost this election. You came to them and tried to tell them what was going on. They covered their ears. They called you racist, misogynist, xenophobic, homophobic, every single thing they could throw at you instead of actually listening. Now, you would think the results of this 2024 election would provide a wake-up call to them where they would think, we need to get out there. We need to start talking to people who we usually don't talk to. We need to understand them so our party can get on the same side. But in response to being told that they were disconnected, they're disconnecting. And while I personally won't miss the tweets from Joy Reid or Stephen King or Don Lemon, I do think America is almost always better off when we can all come to the table as one and discuss our different views. It's sad, you know, to finally have the opportunity to go back and forth on a platform that is truly dedicating itself to free speech, and to see people across the aisle leave. And they're not leaving because it's the right thing to do. They're leaving because they have lost control. They're leaving because they no longer control the game and now have to sit across from an equal team and play the game, and they don't want to do that. The reality is they lost. Now you can face that reality, learn from the loss, talk even to the team who won, although they don't want to hear that, and try to understand them because there's something to be gained here. Clearly, the Democratic Party has sort of lost the plot here, and in order to get back on the storyline, you kind of have to talk to the characters in play. And I will say, I've seen some reasonable Democrats who have sort of sat down and reflected on what's just happened, and they're really trying hard to understand why this has taken place. But I can't say that I'm seeing enough of them. And in this video, we're watching so many prominent Democrats who have a wide array of influence here in the United States just decide to step back and not take ownership. And part of me has an ego and is like, keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna keep losing. We're gonna stay on top. But in reality, I want people to show up. I want us to be able to have these conversations, because if we just retreat into our echo chambers, what's going to happen is we're going to become radicalized and further divided from what's actually happening here on the ground, here online with people of different opinions, and it's going to lead to further division. So while it might make you uncomfortable to face the loss, own up to it, talk to the people who are on the other side, and do an autopsy on your party post-election, sometimes uncomfortable conversations are necessary. So you can leave X and retreat into your own world, into your own reality, but the real world is going to keep spinning, and we're going to keep having conversations. And now you're just simply not going to be a part of them, and that'll be your own choice. But guys, those are just my thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the comments down below. As always, I encourage healthy debate, so if you disagree with anything said in this video, duke it out, but do so respectfully. And if you like this video, like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a video for you guys, which is every day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.